Welcome back. This is part 3 on our journey of figuring out how to make awesome titanium Damascus. In the last episode, we saw that yes, we can twist it without it coming apart in a massive disaster, and we made 2 rings. On this episode, I want to see if pattern welded titanium can be forged into mosaic patterns. See, the last episode was about the patterns on the outside, but mosaics are about the patterns that we can make on the end grain. You remember at the beginning of the last episode, I welded up a second billet? Well, that second billet, billet B, is what we're gonna be experimenting with. I've cut off the mild steel jacket, and now it can go back in the fire. What I need to do is I need to forge it into a round bar, and then positioning the layers up on end, I need to smush them down. We are going to be forcing these layers in such a way that they are just going to want to rip right open if those bonds aren't strong enough. But let's find out how the titanium will cope with mosaic pattern development. All right, now we smush it in that direction. That did not turn out how I expected. The sides of the pattern usually curl much more. Here they're very flat. We should have really quite aggressive C's. In steel, after that operation, it would look a lot more like that. We are within 0.4 millimeters on the width and thickness. I'm pretty happy with that freehand off the power hammer. I'm quite impressed with myself that I have printed a whole lot of technical things. Because this material is so impossibly difficult to machine, I wanted to make doubly sure that we have the best information possible about annealing it. Annealing metals makes them softer. More softy soft, more cutty cut. That's my hope at least. But remember, we have 2 different grades of titanium in here. And so something that came to mind was, what if the different grades anneal at different temperatures? Well, it turns out they do. Ever so slightly. Remember, the alloys we're using are commercially pure grade 2 and 6EL4V, otherwise known as grade 5. Fortunately, they're just ever so slightly different. 690 to 760 for half an hour to 2 hours, and for the grade 2, 538 to 704, again for half an hour to 2 hours. So we went for 700 degrees Celsius, which is fortunately the exact same number that Google gave us when I asked for it a little while ago. But having the data sheets makes me feel just a little bit more confident that we're preparing this for machining the best way possible. Alright, let's see how she's looking. Hopefully nicely annealed. We've got to get this thing cleaned up, of course. Now, you remember in the last episode when we first tried milling our titanium Damascus? It was so-so, but it's definitely taught us a thing or two. I was using this 50mm face mill with these round inserts, but it's like a nothing special face mill and a nothing special inserts. I bought this when we were cutting the cast iron on the bottom dovetail of our steam hammer, so I just got a pretty cheap set from kind of like a hobby engineering company. But you see, facing only one side of the last billet ruined the inserts. And at between £5 and £10 per insert, that means it gets expensive. So with 6 inserts, we're talking £60, £120 of inserts to face 2 sides of a bit of titanium every time we need to clean and restack it. Now that's obviously ridiculous, so we need to be able to improve our processes. I called up a machine tooling supplier, I told them about my issue. And what they did is they suggested a type of insert and face mill that might work better. Instead of a generic insert, just kind of doing whatever, bits of cast iron, bits of steel, they recommended some of these. APMT insert in a grade that's actually designed for titanium and other exotics. Now, they had actually recommended a small size insert with a corresponding face mill, but I did notice that from when I bought this Bridgeport, I got some tools. One of the tools I got was this funny looking face mill. I didn't know what the inserts that fit it were gonna be called, but conveniently, it fits these bad boys. And so for about £60, about 75 bucks, I bought some of the inserts to fit this tool, and if it works good, I'll buy the exact face mill, obviously they come in different shapes and sizes, that they recommended, and invest in the good stuff. But you see, that's not all. I also, unfortunately, need to run this with coolant. When we're turning the piece of twisted titanium Damascus, we got the coolant all fixed on the lathe, and it turned like a dream. Remember, titanium doesn't conduct heat very well, so when it gets hot, it's not putting the heat into the chips, and taking the heat away from the workpiece. It's just heating up the workpiece. So more cool, more better. My Bridgeport has a coolant pump. It just happens to be that I've never used it. I also actually have no idea where it is, so I'm gonna have to turn it on and listen for it. It sounds down low. Do a little grate there. Around the back. Definitely gonna have to clean this mess up to do anything. Have a look in here. Oh no, it's filled. No! Oh yeah, that's gonna be a delightful project. Well, there's the pump, and then coolant tank that is just filled with disgusting gunk. Here's my sludge scraper. Oh, yummy. I mean, it looks just like feces. I'm bringing all this heavy sludge back here to the back so that I can scoop it into that bucket. Yeah, baby! It's just fabulous. Oh, Jamie, this is a great day for you to not be here. I'm so glad that you don't have to experience this, Jamie. Oh no, I cracked the bucket. Oh, crap. Oh, delicious. That's the results of our sludge mining. The rest of it is pretty much liquid. It might need to be thinned. I might need to put more stuff in there for it to be able to pump out, but the general idea now is pump it out, get it gone, get that tank cleaned, and be able to put our new coolant in. Coolant is amazing. Obviously, this is just the sides. The big question is going to be actually face milling it. But that was fabulous. I actually got some great tips from you guys on Instagram, and somebody recommended this app. It's called FS Wizard, presumably Feeds and Speeds Wizard. And so I plugged in the tool that we're using, and it gave me an RPM, 2,400. I thought, well, let's be reasonable here. Let's go with 1,900. Let's not go over the top. And it was fabulous. Maybe I should have tried 2,500. All right, we're gonna go nice and slow, 450 RPM, 1 millimeter. Ooh, it sounds so good. It sounds really good, guys. Ooh, the surface finish is good. Yeah, baby. Oh. The surface finish is incredible. Would you believe it? Science works. That is beautiful. It's like a mirror. Now we're talking. We're getting these processes dialed, folks. Right, it's actually been a few days since we machined on this. In that time, we ran the steam hammer on steam. I just got it dropped off again today in the workshop. That was so bloody cool. And we've had another expensive delivery arrive. That, my friends, is 2 sheets of 2mm titanium. End up being just a smidge under 2,500 pounds. Wowza. But I need it because I've got a very big dream about what I want to do with this titanium Damascus once we've figured out how to work it, once we've figured out what metals it can go to. I've got big stuff planned for this titanium. And I know that there are a ton of you watching with big dreams and goals of your own businesses you want to get off the ground or products that you want to launch. And I truly believe that today's sponsor can help you with that. Squarespace is the website building platform that you know I love, but I really want to highlight something special today, and that is Squarespace AI. It is crazy. We recently sold a titanium Damascus ring, and I had to play with Squarespace AI. You hit these 3 little dots, which opens up the ability to give a prompt to Squarespace AI, and in just a couple of seconds, it gives me all of this brilliant marketing copy for my description. It wrote a way better description than I could have possibly written that enhances the value of the product, which is exactly what you need. We're makers. We make stuff. That's your bread and butter. It's not writing out descriptions. So let Squarespace's AI do the legwork for you when you're selling unlimited physical or digital products, whether you're selling your services, using their scheduling features, members-only content. The options with Squarespace are endless. It is so powerful. So please go to squarespace.com/forge. You get a 14-day free trial. Then when you use code FORGE at checkout, you'll get 10% off your first purchase. Please do make sure to remember using that code so they know that we sent you. Now, what has also arrived is this, an alligator. The next step on this is, of course, cutting it down to size so that we can restack it, which means this is the perfect time to try our new blades. Let's change these over. Breaking the blade. That cuts beautifully. So this is a 4 to 6 tooth. So it's much coarser than the one we were using, as per the recommendations I got from the saw people. This blade we got is meant to be special. It's meant to be for the crazy materials. And so, crazy materials is what we've got. Let's see how she does. Go on, go on. Yes! It's doing it! Get in! And the cut is bloody clean. This is bloody good news. How good is that? And check this out. Remember when I forged it, I said it didn't make the C's that we would expect? Well, it definitely didn't make them at the end, but in the middle of the billet, not only did we manage to make C's, but we got this little zigzaggy sinusoidal pattern, which I've not seen in steel. We've got S's out of steel before, but never that zigzag. So I'm gonna put the best bits of the pattern in the middle of the billet, the worst bits from either end, at the top and the bottom. And you know the drill, we gotta make ourselves a little can, TIG weld it all up, and we gotta chuck this puppy in the forge and get it welded. But did you know that there is actually science in what we are doing? This is a book, and this book was published in 1981. And of course, it's about diffusion bonding, which is exactly what we're doing. It's exactly what we do when we forge weld regular steel Damascus, and I've been bloody obsessed ever since I found out that this isn't just something that we do in our dirty, dingy blacksmith workshops, but there's bloody mountains of very serious, high-speed, and very rigorous research on the topic of solid-state diffusion bonding. Which means for the first time, I'm starting to actually be able to understand how forge welding works. Nice. Pretty sick. We can see that pattern peeking through. Let me show you what we're going to do with the pattern here for developing this mosaic. We started off with 5 pieces like this. We welded it and squished it down. It's a little bit more rectangular, but here's what it would look like if it was square. Now the next step is to make it square and then turn it 45 degrees and re-square it so that the pattern goes across the diagonal. One of the things I do want to do is start forging this stuff at a slightly lower temperature than I have been. We know it can be forged at a very high temperature, but I feel like we were getting an excessive amount of oxidation. I'd like to see if I can cut down on that without the welds falling apart. Not only can we see the pattern, but the texture in it is so wild. Oh! Next up, squaring it up in the mill. Now, in the name of exploration, I'm going to try something potentially naughty. Instead of grinding off the titanium oxide skin, I want to try and mill it off with our new inserts. We know it cuts beautifully without the skin. Will it still do the same with it? And take a nice deep cut, millimeter and a half, 400 RPM, see how she looks. I mean, it looks phenomenal. Sounds good. It didn't look bad. Now I've got to figure out how to cut this into 4 pieces. It's going to be pretty difficult because on our final cut, we're only going to have 22 millimeters to hold on to. And the actual jaws of the bandsaw vise are obviously too far away. This is a pickle I've got to work out. Right, I've just spent all morning making this fixture, and I'm pretty happy with it. This is going to enable us to hold it, even when there's only barely any material to clamp onto. Set screw in the side, clamp on top. I mean, could it be any better? I don't know, probably. It feels pretty rigid. Now, I hummed and hawed about this for a long time last night, trying to figure out how I was going to get this sorted. If any of you guys have any work holding suggestions for this type of issue, please do let me know down below. Again, the constraints are these ratty vice jaws have pivots in the middle, which means if you clamp just here, it spreads out. And we have a very aggressive pitched tooth that cuts away from the back jaw. The downside to this contraption is it's not very modular. It took me all morning to make a work holding solution for like 4 cuts. Pretty ridiculous. Well, I gotta say, I'm bloody chuffed with that. All those cuts are within 0.4 millimeters of one another, about 16 thousandths of an inch, which is pretty good off a bandsaw. And in terms of rigidity, this work holding solution was fantastic. Very inefficient though. Now, as you'll see, when we take our re-squared W's and we orient them just so, it creates an explosion pattern. It is an absolute classic as far as mosaic Damascus goes. It's the first mosaic I ever learned to make from Dave Lish in steel, and so it's only fitting that it's the first mosaic that we do in titanium Damascus. Now, before we weld it together, I want to see how this pattern looks with color, and instead of heat, I want to anodize it with electricity. Welcome to chemistry class. Please open your textbooks to a Reddit thread on anodizing titanium for pretty colors and how to get over some of the challenges in sourcing some of the best materials for doing so. Make sure that you have a 0 to 100 volt DC power supply, a means of heating some liquid, ammonium persulfate, sodium fluoride, baking soda, distilled water, and most importantly, don't forget a good attitude. It's going to be a 3-step process. Step 1, thoroughly cleaning the titanium. Step 2, using our sodium fluoride and ammonium persulfate etchant to strip off any oxides so that it's ready for step 3, which is the actual anodizing with the use of the electrical current and a baking soda water solution. This needs to be 150 degrees Fahrenheit. A little distilled water. This is going to be our etchant. This needs to warm up in here. We need to mix up some bicarbonate of soda for the electrolyte. Prepare that there. Now we etch this so it goes into the hot bath. I should strip the oxides, give it a rinse in distilled water. Now I'm going to connect it to the positive, dip it in here. Now I'm going to turn up the voltage. Oh my gosh, that's 20 volts. Wow! Look at that! That's sick! You see the colors change. That's 25 volts. Turn it up to 35. That makes a beautiful blue. 45. Whoa, it's getting green. Okay, we're almost at 60. Oh goodness, another beautiful yellow. We're getting a little red. Pink. Oh, at 80 volts, it gets darker again. Wow. Coming up on 100 volts here in just a second. Wow. That is so cool. Now this is just a regular bit of scrap titanium. This is just grade 2 titanium. Depending on the voltage, we get a different color. The Thought Emporium has a great YouTube video that goes in depth about how all this stuff works. I hope that you check that out. But what's going to be very interesting is to see if the 2 different grades we're using, grade 2 and grade 5, anodize at different respective voltages, allowing for us to get some of these crazy greens and purples and blues and yellows to show up in our titanium Damascus. So now, of course, we've got to get this 4-way mosaic stack welded together so that we can see the crazy stuff that we can come up with this anodizing. Would you look at that? All right, I've quickly whacked together a set of V squaring dies out of some machining V blocks. Now with a 4-way mosaic stack, I have been able to weld it in steel between flat dies many times and it sticks just fine. But with this much more expensive and much more finicky material with the titanium Damascus, I'm very concerned that any sort of squishing from 2 planes only may well get us a weld directly perpendicular to that axis, but may make a cavity in line with it. And no matter what, we're going to be turning frequently, so we'd hope that it would then very quickly bond back together. But in order to have the best chance of success, this is the point I'm getting to, if we chuck it between these V squaring dies, we're hopefully going to have force not only coming in the direction of squeeze, but also from the sides of these V blocks. And the hope is that just concentrates all of the energy right to the middle, so every single surface has pressure to bond. Got it in the fire? Need all fingers and toes crossed here, folks. Help me out. Okay, we're reading 1900 Fahrenheit. Ah, come on. I don't think I squeezed hard enough, and it just sucks the heat right out as well. I'm just scared to overdo it. There we go. Much better. Woo! Looks like a comfy little pillow to rest your head on at night. It feels like one piece. I'm gonna chase out these seams with a grinder, maybe a carbide burr, and then we are going to forge it down to a little bit of a more manageable size before we try and cut a slice off it. Yes! Yes! In attempting to etch this large piece, we ran into issues. So I dipped the piece in the etchant, rinsed it in the distilled water, and then it was into the electrolyte with the electrical current. And basically nothing was happening. We cranked the machine all the way up, nothing was happening. We did a few little test anodizes on some scrap to see if the electrolyte was good. We even changed that out. It was working on the scrap. And so all I could deduce was that we needed to clean off all of the oxides. In hindsight, I think the titanium oxide skin that I'd left on was getting all of the attacking from our etchant, therefore it wasn't preparing the surface for the anodizing correctly. I milled and ground everything back up, and then we tried again. And the result, pulling it in and out of the electrolyte, starting at 60 volts, going all the way up to about 80 volts. The result was pretty incredible. This has just unlocked a whole new world of possibilities. We're gonna need more machines, more materials for what's to come. I can't wait to be sharing this with you. Please be sure to check out today's sponsor. The link is down below, of course. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.